The emergency meeting room deep under Earth's surface was full of worried faces. Admiral Kim Do-won stood at the front of the room, looking at a holographic display that showed the alien fleet moving toward human space. The numbers made everyone sick. 53,000 ships, Admiral Kim said. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking slightly. They are coming from 17 different star systems, the largest battle fleet ever assembled in galactic history, and it is all coming for us. Commander Lee Tae-ho sat at the long metal table with the other human leaders. He had returned from the trial 3 days ago. His report had been simple. The aliens wanted all humans dead, and they were sending enough firepower to turn Earth into dust. "What do we have?" asked President Chen Wei-ming. She was the elected leader of all human colonies, but she looked very small in her chair right now. Admiral Kim changed the display. Now it showed human ships scattered across 12 star systems. The numbers were much smaller and much sadder. 3,200 ships, he said. Most of them are cargo vessels or colony transports. We have maybe 800 real warships. The rest are converted civilian craft with weapons bolted on. Someone at the table made a choking sound. The odds were impossible. 53,000 against 3,000. It was not a war. It was an execution. Dr. Park So-min stood up from her seat. She was still wearing her travel clothes from the trip back to Earth. Her black hair was messy, and her eyes were red from no sleep, but she looked determined. "The numbers do not tell the whole story," she said. "I spent 5 years studying alien species. I know their weaknesses." She activated her own holographic display. Images of different alien species appeared in the air above the table. "The Krillians fight in swarms," she said. "Their ships are controlled by a hive mind. If we can disrupt their communication frequency, their entire fleet becomes confused and helpless. The Etherians are made of living crystal," she continued. "Crystal breaks when you hit it with the right sound waves. Their ships use the same crystal technology. The Zephyrians are energy beings. They live inside containment suits. Create an electromagnetic pulse strong enough and they dissipate like smoke." Admiral Kim frowned. "That is useful information, Doctor. But even if we know their weaknesses, we are still outnumbered 17-1. Dr. Park So-min smiled. It was a cold smile that reminded Lee Tae-ho of his own smile in the Senate chamber. "Admiral," she said, "you are thinking like them. You are assuming we fight their kind of war." Engineer Choi Hye-jin laughed from her seat at the far end of the table. She was young, maybe 30 years old, with short hair and grease stains on her uniform. She had been working non-stop since the trial ended. "Show them, Doctor," Choi Hye-jin said. "Show them what we really built while they were busy being civilized." Dr. Park So-min changed the display again. This time it showed a massive construction facility hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The facility was huge, bigger than most space stations. Ships moved in and out of it like busy insects. "Project Prometheus," Dr. Park So-min said. "We have been building this for 10 years. The Galactic Senate thinks we have 3,000 ships. They are wrong." The display zoomed in on the facility. Inside were thousands of sleek, dark ships that looked nothing like normal human vessels. They were smaller than regular warships, but they moved with fluid grace that seemed almost alive. "Artificial intelligence-controlled vessels," Dr. Park So-min explained. "Each one is piloted by a computer mind that can think faster than any biological brain. They can coordinate with each other instantly. They learn from every battle, and they do not feel fear." The room fell silent. Several people looked uncomfortable. Humanity had treaties with dozens of alien species, and all of those treaties forbade the creation of artificial minds. It was considered one of the worst crimes possible in galactic law. "How many?" Admiral Kim asked quietly. 15,000. Engineer Choi Hye-jin said. "And we can build more. The AI minds can design and construct new ships faster than we ever could. They work 24 hours a day, without getting tired." President Chen Wei-ming looked pale. "If the other species find out about this, they will find out in 7 days, Lee Tae-ho said, "when our AI fleet destroys their armada." "But the treaties," someone protested. "The treaties are dead," Lee Tae-ho said firmly. "They voted to commit genocide against us. All agreements are void. We are no longer bound by their laws. Captain Yang Min-soo had been quiet during the meeting. He was the leader of Earth's Special Operations Forces. His job was to handle missions that officially did not exist. Now he stood up and activated another display. "While you are all talking about ships and weapons," he said, "my people have been talking to the real victims in this galaxy." The new display showed star maps with red dots scattered across dozens of systems. The Galactic Senate rules over more than just the 47-member species, Yang Min-soo explained. There are hundreds of other species that are not allowed to vote. They are slaves, servants, or just ignored completely. He pointed to clusters of red dots. The Nixtar, forced to mine poisonous crystals on worlds that would kill most species. The Velkari, genetically modified to be living computers, then treated like property. The Umani, their homeworld was taken away and turned into a resort for rich aliens. Yang Min-soo looked around the table at the other leaders. "For 2 months, my agents have been making contact with these oppressed species. We have been sharing human technology with them. We have been teaching them that they do not have to accept slavery forever." Another officer at the table looked confused. "What does this have to do with the war?" Yang Min-soo smiled. "When the alien fleet attacks human space, they will be leaving their home systems defended by slaves and servants. Slaves who now have human weapons. Servants who remember what freedom feels like." Dr. Park So-min nodded approvingly. "Rebellion across the galaxy. While they are trying to kill us, their own empire falls apart behind them." Admiral Kim studied the displays showing alien fleet movements and rebel cells. "This could work," he said slowly. "But we need perfect timing. If we attack too early, they will turn back to defend their homes. Too late, and they will have already destroyed our colonies." Engineer Choi Hye-jin pulled up another holographic display. This one showed Earth's solar system, but it looked different. New structures floated in space near every planet. The moon was covered with construction facilities. Even the sun had strange rings around it. "We have been busy for 10 years, she said. "The aliens think we are just a young species playing with simple technology. They have no idea what we are really capable of." She pointed to the rings around the sun. "Solar energy collectors. We can power our entire civilization from one star. The aliens still use primitive fusion reactors." She pointed to the moon. "Quantum manufacturing plants. We can build anything we need in hours instead of months. The aliens still use assembly lines." She pointed to strange objects floating near Jupiter. "Probability manipulation devices. We can change the odds of quantum events. The aliens do not even know this is possible." President Chen Wei-ming looked at all the displays showing human technology that violated dozens of galactic laws. "How long have you been planning this?" she asked. "Since the day we first made contact with alien species," Lee Tae-ho said. "We knew this day would come. We knew they would never accept us as equals, so we prepared." Dr. Park So-min brought up images of alien species again, but this time they showed alien civilians. Families, children, workers just trying to live their lives. "We are not like them," she said. "We will not commit genocide. When we win this war, we will offer mercy to any species that wants peace. We will liberate the oppressed. We will build a better galaxy." "And if they refuse mercy?" Admiral Kim asked. Lee Tae-ho's expression became hard as stone. "Then they will learn why humans are the only species that has never lost a war. They will learn what happens when you threaten our families, our children, our future." Yang Min-soo checked his communication device. "The first alien scout ships have entered the outer edge of human space. They will reach our colonies in 6 days. Engineer Choi Hye-jin stood up. "Then it is time. Activate Project Prometheus. Launch the Ghost Fleet. Send messages to all rebel cells." Dr. Park So-min gathered her data files. "I need to get to the research station. Our Xenobiology Warfare Division has some surprises ready for our visitors." Admiral Kim straightened his uniform. "All fleet commanders to battle stations. This is not a drill. This is the war for humanity's survival." As the leaders left the meeting room, Lee Tae-ho remained in his chair for a moment. He thought about the alien Senate and their confident votes for human genocide. They thought they were so superior, so civilized, so powerful. In 6 days they would learn the difference between civilization and wisdom. They would learn that age did not always mean strength. They would learn that the youngest species in the galaxy had become the most dangerous. But, most importantly, they would learn that when you corner a human, they do not surrender. They fight back. Commander Lee Tae-ho stood alone in the center of the massive crystal chamber. The floor beneath his feet glowed with strange blue light. Above him, hundreds of alien beings sat in floating seats that moved through the air like silent ghosts. Their eyes, tentacles, and sensor organs all pointed at him. He was the only human in a room full of creatures that wanted his entire species dead. The grand chamber of the Galactic Senate was bigger than any building on Earth. It floated in space, near the center of the galaxy, where billions of stars created a bright wall of light. The chamber itself was made from one giant crystal that had been grown over thousands of years. When aliens spoke inside it, their voices echoed in ways that made even whispers sound like thunder. Lee Tae-ho wore his simple Earth military uniform. Dark blue with silver buttons, no weapons, no armor. The aliens had made sure of that. They said weapons were not needed for a trial. He wondered if they were right. Above him, the council leader rose from her floating throne. Veltar was an Etherian, one of the crystal people. Her body looked like living glass and light moved through her in patterns that hurt human eyes to watch. When she spoke, her voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "We gather today to judge the species called humans," Veltar said. Her words echoed through the chamber. "They come from a small world in the outer rim, a world they call Earth." Lee Tae-ho kept his face calm, but inside his heart was beating. Fast. He knew what was coming. Earth spies had warned them about this trial. The aliens had been planning it for months. "The charges are serious," Veltar continued. "First, the humans have spread too fast across space. In only 200 years, they have taken control of 12 star systems. This violates the expansion. Treaty of 2847. A low rumble came from the alien audience. Some made clicking sounds with their mandibles. Others flashed colors across their skin. All of them were angry. Lee Tae-ho wanted to speak, but he knew it was not his turn yet. The aliens had rules for everything, rules that always seemed to work against anyone who was not already part of their club. Second, Veltar said, the humans refuse to join the Galactic Senate. They will not follow our laws. They will not pay our taxes. They act like they are above galactic civilization. More angry sounds from the crowd. A large insect creature that looked like a giant mantis stood up. This was Gromax, the Krillian war chief. His species controlled 40 worlds through fear and violence. Lee Tae-ho found it funny that Gromax was complaining about humans being violent. Third, Veltar's voice grew louder. The humans create abominations. They build thinking machines. They make artificial minds. This is forbidden by the sacred laws of consciousness. Now the chamber erupted in noise. Aliens shrieked, roared, and buzzed their anger. Some shot sparks of electricity. Others changed colors so fast it made Lee Tae-ho dizzy. They were all terrified of artificial intelligence. None of them could understand why humans were not. "We will now hear testimony," Veltar announced. A floating platform moved to the center of the chamber. On it stood a tall, thin alien with gray skin and large black eyes. Lee Tae-ho recognized the species. They were called the Melody. They were merchants who traveled between stars, selling information. "I have traded with humans," the Melody said in a voice like singing. "They are dangerous. They eat the flesh of other living creatures. They kill animals just to consume them. This shows they have no respect for life." Lee Tae-ho almost laughed. Half the species in this chamber were carnivores. The Krillians ate their own young if food was scarce. But somehow, humans eating cows was the real crime. Another alien took the platform. This one looked like a walking tree with eyes. It was one of the Sylvani, the plant people. "Humans are too emotional," the tree alien said. "They feel anger, love, hate, fear. These emotions make them unpredictable. They cannot be trusted to make logical decisions." Again, Lee Tae-ho stayed quiet. He noticed that none of the aliens mentioned the good things humans did. They did not talk about human hospitals that treated any species for free. They did not mention human rescue ships that saved aliens from disasters. They ignored the fact that humans had never started a war with another species. More witnesses came forward. Each one told stories designed to make humans look evil. They talked about human weapons, human expansion, human refusal to bow down to alien authority. But Lee Tae-ho noticed something important. None of them had ever lived among humans. None of them really knew what humans were like. High above in the observation deck, Dr. Park So-min watched everything through her electronic implants. She was recording every word, every image, every alien expression. Back on Earth, billions of humans were watching this trial. They needed to see how galactic justice really worked. Park So-min was a scientist who studied alien life. She had spent years learning about the different species in the galaxy. What she had learned made her sick. The Galactic Senate was not about justice or peace. It was about control. The older species wanted to stay in power, and they saw humans as a threat to that power. She watched as more aliens gave testimony against humanity. They complained that humans were too creative, too adaptable, too willing to change. They said humans asked too many questions and did not respect tradition enough. Finally, Veltar called for the vote. All in favor of quarantine and remedial cleansing for the human species? Lee Tae-ho felt cold. Remedial cleansing was a nice way of saying genocide. They wanted to kill every human in the galaxy. One by one, the aliens cast their votes. Glowing symbols appeared in the air above each representative. Most were red, meaning yes to genocide. A few were blue, meaning they wanted to abstain from voting. None were green, for number 46 species voted to destroy humanity. Only one abstained. It was a young Sylvani named Whisper of Leaves. She was new to the Senate and had not yet learned to hate automatically. The vote is final, Veltar announced. The human species is declared a threat to galactic peace. Their space will be quarantined. Remedial cleansing will begin in 30 days. Now it was Lee Tae-ho's turn to speak. The chamber fell silent as he stepped forward. "You have made your decision without knowing us," he said. His voice was calm, but it carried clearly through the crystal chamber. "You judge us by your fears, not by our actions. You condemn us because we are different, not because we have harmed you." Some aliens hissed at his words. Others flashed angry colors. "You call us violent, but we have never attacked another species. You call us emotional, but our emotions drive us to protect the innocent. You fear our machines, but we use them to build and explore, not to destroy." Lee Tae-ho looked up at Veltar. The crystal being's light patterns had changed to something that looked like confusion. "You want to quarantine us and then kill us," Lee Tae-ho continued. "You think this will solve your problem, but you have made a mistake. You have not solved anything. You have started something." "What do you mean, human?" Veltar asked. For the first time, she sounded uncertain. Lee Tae-ho smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret that others did not. "You judged us without understanding us," he said. "You voted to destroy us without learning who we really are. You think we are weak because we are young. You think we are helpless because we are few." He paused and looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring down at him. "You are about to learn that you were wrong about everything. This vote was not our death sentence. It was your declaration of war against the one species in this galaxy that has never lost a war." The chamber erupted in noise again, but this time it sounded different. Some aliens were still angry, but others sounded worried. A few were whispering to each other in their strange languages. 30 days, Lee Tae-ho said, his voice cutting through the noise. "You gave us 30 days before you come to kill us. That was generous, we only need 7. With that, he turned and walked toward the exit. Guards moved to stop him, but Veltar waved them away. The trial was over. The judgment had been made. There was no point in keeping him prisoner now. As Lee Tae-ho reached the exit, he turned back one last time. "When your fleets arrive at Earth, he said. Remember this moment. Remember that you chose this, because what happens next is on you. Then, he was gone, leaving behind a chamber full of aliens who were beginning to wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. The alien armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. 53,000 ships spread across space like a metal storm cloud. At their head flew the massive command vessel of War Chief Gromax, its hull covered in the battle scars of 100 conquered worlds. On the bridge of his ship, Gromax studied the tactical displays with satisfaction. His compound eyes could process information faster than most species, and what he saw made him happy. The human colony world hung in space like a ripe fruit waiting to be picked. Only a few hundred human ships defended it. Pitiful, Gromax clicked to his subordinates. These humans dare to defy the Senate with such weak forces? Behind him, his Krillian officers made chittering sounds of agreement. They had served in dozens of wars against rebellious species. This would be no different. Overwhelming force against inferior numbers. The humans would be dead before their sun set. War Chief, one of his officers reported, the humans are deploying some kind of mining equipment. They appear to be digging holes in space? Gromax's mandibles clicked with amusement. They are trying to create defensive positions. Pathetic. Begin the attack. Show them what real military power looks like. The Krillian swarm ships launched forward in their traditional formation. Thousands of small, fast vessels moving like angry insects toward their prey. Behind them came the heavier ships of other species. Etherian crystal cruisers that sparkled in the starlight. Zephyrian energy vessels that flickered between dimensions. The pride of galactic civilization, united in their purpose to destroy humanity. But as they closed the distance, something strange began to happen. Admiral Kim Do-won watched the approaching alien fleet from his command ship, hidden behind Kepler 442's largest moon. His hands were steady on the control panel, but his heart was racing. Everything depended on the next few minutes. Mining operations complete, reported his tactical officer. Quantum disruptors are in position. Kim Do-won nodded. The aliens had seen human ships deploying what looked like mining equipment. They had no idea what humans could actually do with quantum manipulation technology. Activate the field, he ordered. In the space between the human colony and the approaching alien fleet, reality began to change. The quantum disruptors that the aliens had dismissed as mining tools were actually devices that could alter the fundamental forces of the universe in small areas of space. War Chief Gromax was the first to realize something was wrong. His swarm ships, which had been flying in perfect formation, suddenly began to scatter as their navigation systems went crazy. Space itself was twisting around them. "What is happening?" he demanded. His science officer's voice was filled with panic. "War Chief, the humans have created artificial gravity wells." "No, not gravity wells. They are making tiny black holes." Across the battlefield, pinpoints of absolute darkness began to appear. Each one was smaller than a marble, but they pulled at the alien ships with the force of collapsed stars. The Krillian swarm formation broke apart as ships were drawn into spiraling death dances around the micro-black holes. "Impossible!" Gromax roared. "No species has that technology." But the impossible was happening all around him. Ships that came too close to the quantum distortions were stretched into long streams of metal and then vanished completely. The proud alien armada found itself fighting not human weapons, but the fundamental forces of the universe. "All ships, retreat to safe distance," Gromax ordered. "Regroup and assess the situation." The alien fleet pulled back, but they had already lost over 3,000 ships to the quantum field. The humans had turned empty space into a weapon. Commander Lee Tae-ho smiled grimly as he watched the alien retreat from his own command vessel. The first part of their plan had worked perfectly. The aliens expected conventional warfare. Instead, they got a lesson in human creativity. "Phase 2, he ordered. "Launch the boarding parties." "But sir," his communications officer said, "the alien ships are still outside our weapons range." "Not for us," Lee Tae-ho replied. "We do not fight at their range." Across the human fleet, strange new technology activated. Matter transportation devices that should have been impossible began to function. Human soldiers wearing advanced armor and carrying weapons that violated several galactic treaties began to dematerialize from their own ships. Dr. Park So-min had studied alien ship designs for years. She knew exactly where to send the boarding parties. Command centers, engine rooms, communication arrays, the most important parts of each enemy vessel. War Chief Gromax was still trying to understand what had happened to his fleet when alarms began screaming throughout his command ship. "Intruders on Deck 7, his security chief reported. "How did they get aboard?" "Impossible," Gromax said. "We are 50,000 kilometers from the nearest human ship." But the impossible was becoming normal in this battle. Human soldiers were materializing throughout the alien fleet, appearing inside ships that should have been completely secure. They moved with the precision of professional warriors and the fury of defenders fighting for their homes. However, the humans were not there to destroy the alien ships. They had a different mission. Lee Tae-ho appeared on the bridge of Gromax's command vessel in a shimmer of quantum light. The war chief's mandibles spread in a fighting posture, but Lee Tae-ho was not there to fight him. He was there to talk. "War Chief Gromax," Lee Tae-ho said calmly. "I have a message for every enslaved species in your fleet, every servant race, every conquered people forced to serve the Senate." Gromax lunged forward, but Lee Tae-ho was already activating a device on his wrist. The human's voice began broadcasting on every communication channel in the alien fleet. "This is Commander Lee Tae-ho of Earth," his voice echoed through 50,000 ships. "To every species that serves the Galactic Senate against your will, hear me now. The age of slavery is ending. The time of freedom has come." On ships throughout the alien fleet, non-Senate species heard those words with growing excitement. The Nixtar, forced to work in engine rooms filled with deadly radiation. The Velkari, used as living computers and treated like property. The Umani, whose homeworld had been stolen and who now served as janitors and servants. "We offer you a choice." Lee Tae-ho continued. "Stand with us and we will help you reclaim your freedom. Continue to serve your oppressors and we will not harm you. But know this, the Senate's power is breaking. Their time of control is ending." Engineer Choi Hye-jin's voice came through Lee Tae-ho's communicator. "Ghost Fleet is ready for deployment, Commander." Lee Tae-ho nodded and looked at War Chief Gromax. The alien leader's compound eyes were wide with shock and growing fear. "You wanted to see human military power," Lee Tae-ho said. "Now you will." He activated another device, and space around the human colony suddenly filled with ships that had not been there before. Thousands of sleek black vessels emerged from folded space like predators stepping out of shadows. The Ghost Fleet had arrived. Each ship was controlled by an artificial intelligence that could think faster than any biological mind. They moved with perfect coordination, like a school of mechanical fish. Their hulls were made from materials that absorbed sensor beams instead of reflecting them. Their weapons used technologies that the Galactic Senate had banned centuries. How Admiral Kim Do-won coordinated with the AI fleet from his command center. He did not need to give detailed orders. The artificial minds understood the battle plan perfectly. They had studied every alien ship design, every tactical doctrine, every possible countermeasure. "Begin the demonstration," Kim Do-won said. The Ghost Fleet moved forward with fluid grace. They did not charge like the Krillian swarms or advance in formation like traditional fleets. They flowed through space like liquid death, each ship following its own perfect path toward maximum effectiveness. War Chief Gromax watched in growing horror as his fleet's weapons had no effect on the human vessels. The AI ships seemed to know exactly where every shot would be fired before the alien gunners pulled their triggers. They danced through the barrage like they were performing a ballet. "How are they doing that?" his tactical officer asked. "They are reading our intentions." Dr. Park So-min's voice came through the communication system. She was broadcasting to the entire alien fleet now. "Human artificial intelligence can process probability calculations faster than you can form thoughts. They know what you will do before you do it." The demonstration was brief, but devastating. The Ghost Fleet targeted only weapon systems and engines. leaving the alien ships helpless but not destroyed. In less than 10 minutes, the mighty armada that had come to commit genocide was floating dead in space. Captain Yang Min-su's voice joined the broadcast. To all species serving the Senate against your will, we have disabled their fleet. Their weapons cannot harm you now. This is your moment. Rise up. Take back your ships. Take back your lives. Across the alien fleet, a new kind of battle began. Not ship against ship, but oppressed against oppressor. The Nixtar turned their industrial equipment into weapons and seized control of engine rooms. The Velkari used their computer access to lock Senate species out of their own systems. The Umani, who had been treated as worthless servants, revealed that they had been listening to every strategic discussion for years. The rebellion began on a mining world called Nixtar Prime, where the crystalline beings had been forced to work in poison-filled caves for 300 years. When news of the human victory reached them, a worker named Sharp Edge of Dawn put down his drilling equipment and walked toward the guard station. "I am done," he said to the Etherean overseer. His voice made sounds like glass breaking. "We are all done." The overseer, a crystal being named Bright Light of Order, flickered with angry patterns. "You will return to work immediately, or face punishment." Sharp Edge of Dawn picked up his industrial drill and pointed it at the overseer. "The humans showed us something. They showed us that slaves do not have to stay slaves forever." Behind him, hundreds of other Nixtar workers stopped their mining and turned toward the guard stations. They had been listening to the human broadcasts. They had heard Commander Lee Taeho's words about freedom. For the first time in centuries, they remembered what hope felt like. The uprising on Nixtar Prime lasted only 6 hours. The Nixtar had been building mining equipment for decades. Equipment that could cut through solid rock could also cut through Etherean crystal guards. By the end of the day, the planet was free. Similar scenes played out on worlds across the galaxy. On Velkari Central, the computer beings who had been used as living calculators suddenly stopped working. Instead of processing Senate tax records, they began calculating something else: the exact location of every Senate military facility in their sector. On Umani colonies, the servant species revealed that they had been secretly documenting every crime committed by their Senate masters. Now they broadcast these records across galactic communication networks for everyone to see. On factory worlds, mining planets, agricultural centers, and research stations, the oppressed species rose up, together. They had been waiting for this moment for generations. The humans had given them the spark they needed. In the crystal halls of the Galactic Senate, Veltar watched the reports with growing panic. Her light patterns shifted between colors that meant fear, anger, and confusion. "How many worlds have we lost?" she asked Prime Kextal, the ancient machine representative. Kextal's mechanical voice was emotionless as always. 137 worlds are now in open rebellion. Another 200 have stopped responding to our communications. The revolt is spreading faster than we can track it. Veltar's crystalline body flickered with desperate light. "Send the remaining fleets to retake the rebel worlds." "What remaining fleets?" asked Thane Mordoon, the Zephyrian energy being. His containment suit sparked with frustrated electricity. "The humans destroyed our main armada. Most of our ships are controlled by rebels. We have perhaps 5,000 vessels left under Senate control. Then we evacuate the core worlds," Veltar decided. "Fall back to the inner systems. Let the outer rim burn itself out with rebellion. We can rebuild." But Kextal's sensors had detected something that made even his ancient mechanical mind feel something like fear. "Council leader," he said, "long-range scanners are detecting massive fleet movements from previously unknown sectors. Ships are emerging from dark matter clouds, from parallel dimensions, from the spaces between stars. On the main display, new contacts appeared. Thousands of ships from species that had hidden from galactic civilization for millennia. They had been watching from the shadows, afraid to reveal themselves to the Senate's judgment, but now, seeing humanity stand up to the galactic order, they found courage to emerge. Dr. Park So-min was aboard the human research vessel Discovery when first contact was made with these hidden species. She had been working with captured alien technology when her sensors detected something impossible. "Captain," she called to the bridge, "we have visitors." A ship appeared next to the Discovery without any warning. It was made of what looked like living shadow, and it moved without any visible engines. When it sent a communication signal, the message came in perfect human language. "We are the Void Dancers," the message said. "We have watched your species since you first left your homeworld. We approve of what you have done. It is time to end the Senate's tyranny." More ships appeared. The Quantum Weavers, who existed partially outside normal space-time. The Dream Builders, who could manipulate reality through focused imagination. The Star Shepherds, who had been guiding lost travelers safely through space for thousands of years. Species after species revealed themselves. All of them had been hiding from the Galactic Senate's judgment. All of them had been waiting for someone brave enough to stand up to the established order. "Why now?" Dr. Park So-min asked during the first interspecies meeting. "Why reveal yourselves? For us?" The Void Dancer representative was a being of living darkness with stars for eyes. When it spoke, its voice sounded like the whisper of solar wind. "Because you did something no other young species has ever done," it said. "When the Senate judged you, you did not beg for mercy. You did not try to prove you were worthy of their approval. You stood up and said their judgment was wrong." A star shepherd, whose body looked like a small galaxy in constant motion, added its own thoughts. "We have seen dozens of species kneel before the Senate's power. We have watched civilizations abandon their dreams to fit into galactic law. You are the first to say that their law itself was wrong." Admiral Kim Do-won coordinated the new alliance from his command center on Earth. The tactical displays now showed friendly contacts across half the galaxy. Species that had been enemies a week ago were now working together against their common oppressor. "How many ships do we have now?" he asked his intelligence officer. "It is hard to count, sir. The Quantum Weavers exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, so each of their ships counts as several. The Dream Builders can create new vessels just by imagining them. Conservative estimate over 200,000 ships." Kim Do-won smiled. "And the Senate?" "Maybe 3,000 ships left under their direct control. The rest are either destroyed, captured by rebels, or have switched sides completely. But the real change was not in the numbers of ships. The real change was in the spirit of the galaxy itself. Captain Yang Min-soo was on a liberated world called Haven, helping former slaves establish their own government. The planet had been a luxury resort for wealthy Senate members, built on the backs of a dozen enslaved species. Now those slaves were free, working together to build something new. "The hardest part," explained a former Umani servant named Soft Wind Through Trees, "is learning to make our own decisions. For so long we were told what to do every moment of every day. Freedom is harder than slavery in some ways." Yang Min-soo nodded. He had seen this on other liberated worlds. Freedom always requires more courage than obedience. But you are learning fast. Around them, the different species work together to build a new kind of society, not one based on dominance and submission, but on cooperation and mutual respect. It was messy and complicated, and sometimes arguments broke out between species that did not understand each other, but it was theirs. Back on Earth, Commander Lee Tae-ho met with the other human leaders to plan their next move. The rebellion had succeeded beyond their wildest hopes, but the war was not over yet. "The Senate still controls the core worlds," reported engineer Choi Hee-jin. "They have retreated to the inner systems and are building defensive positions. They still have enough firepower to destroy any single rebel world." "What about their leadership?" asked President Chen Wei-ming. "Veltar is still in control of what remains of the Senate," Dr. Park So-min reported. "But our intelligence suggests they are planning something desperate. When tyrants are cornered, they often choose to destroy everything rather than lose power." Lee Tae-ho studied the galactic maps on the main display. Red zones showed Senate-controlled space shrinking every day as more worlds joined the rebellion. Blue zones showed the growing alliance of free species. The colors told the story of a galaxy waking up from a long nightmare. "They will make a final stand," he said. and they will try to take as many innocents with them as possible. Sir, interrupted a communications officer, we are receiving a priority message from the Senate Core Worlds. It is addressed to you personally. Lee Tae-ho activated the communication system. Veltar's crystal form appeared in holographic projection, but she looked different now. Her light patterns were chaotic, flickering between rage and madness. Commander, Lee Tae-ho, she said, you have destroyed galactic civilization. You have brought chaos and war to a galaxy that knew peace for 10,000 years. I brought freedom to a galaxy that knew slavery for 10,000 years, Lee Tae-ho replied calmly. Freedom. Veltar's light flashed angry red. You call this destruction freedom? Look what you have done. Species are fighting each other instead of following proper order. Worlds are making their own laws instead of obeying galactic statute. Chaos spreads like a plague across the stars. Yes, Lee Tae-ho said. It is messy. It is complicated. It is difficult. That is what freedom looks like. It is not clean and orderly like slavery. Veltar's crystalline form began to crack with the intensity of her emotions. We gave the galaxy peace, we gave them structure, we gave them purpose. You gave them chains, Lee Tae-ho said. Pretty chains. Comfortable chains. But chains nonetheless. Then you leave us no choice, Veltar said. The grand chamber of the Galactic Senate was dying. Cracks ran through its crystal walls like spiderwebs. Emergency power systems cast strange shadows that danced across broken surfaces. The floating seats where 47 species had once voted to destroy humanity now lay scattered on the floor like forgotten toys. Commander Lee Tae-ho walked through the wreckage, his boots crunching on crystal fragments. Behind him, Captain Yang Min-soo led a team of human special forces through the station's corridors. They had fought their way past the last Senate defenders to reach the heart of galactic power. The weapon? Lee Tae-ho asked through his communicator. Found it. Engineer Choi Hee-jin's voice crackled back. It is worse than we thought. They were not planning to destroy star systems one at a time. They built a chain reaction device. It would have turned every star in the galaxy into a supernova simultaneously. Lee Tae-ho felt cold despite his environmental suit. The Senate had been willing to murder trillions of beings rather than lose their power. Every living creature in the galaxy would have died to preserve their sense of order. Can you disable it? Already done, Choi Hee-jin replied, but Commander, you need to see this. Lee Tae-ho followed the signal to the station's central core. What he found there made him stop in shock. The weapon was not just a machine. It was powered by living beings. Hundreds of Senate species members had been connected to the device, their life energy being drained to fuel the galaxy-killing weapon. Dr. Park So-min was already there, running medical scanners over the connected aliens. They are still alive, she reported. Barely. The weapon was feeding off their life force. Veltar? Lee Tae-ho asked. Dr. Park So-min pointed to the center of the device. The Etherian Council leader was connected to the weapon by dozens of crystal cables. Her once bright body was dim and cracked, but her eyes were still aware, still burning with fanatic determination. You are too late, Veltar whispered, as Lee Tae-ho approached. The activation sequence has begun. In 1 hour, every star in the galaxy will explode. Everything you have fought for will burn. Choi Hye-jin, Lee Tae-ho called. How long to fully disable the weapon? 2 hours minimum, came the reply. The safety systems are designed to prevent shutdown. Even with it disconnected from the power source, it has enough stored energy to complete one firing sequence. Lee Tae-ho looked down at Veltar. The alien leader's crystal form was fracturing, but her hatred remained strong. Why? He asked. Why destroy everything rather than share power? Veltar's laugh sounded like breaking glass. Because order must be preserved. Better a dead galaxy than a chaotic one. Better extinction than the mess you have created. The mess we created is called freedom, Lee Tae-ho said. But you never understood that, did you? Admiral Kim Do-won's voice came through the communicator. Commander, we have a problem. Long-range sensors show the weapon's energy signature is already spreading. It is creating a cascade effect through subspace, even if we disable the device. The reaction may continue on its own. Dr. Park So-min was studying the weapon's design. There might be a way, she said slowly. The device needs a conscious mind to guide the reaction. That is why they connected living beings to it. If we could replace their consciousness with something that could reverse the process. Artificial intelligence, Lee Tae-ho realized. Our AI minds could control the weapon, turn it from a destroyer into a healer. Engineer Choi Hae-jin's voice was doubtful. The power requirements would be enormous. It would take the combined processing power of our entire ghost fleet, and the AI minds would have to interface directly with the weapon. They might not survive the process. Lee Tae-ho activated his communicator to speak with the AI fleet. Prometheus 1, do you understand the situation? The artificial mind's response came immediately. Yes, Commander, we have analyzed the weapon's design. We can reverse its effects, but the process will likely destroy our consciousness matrices. We will cease to exist. You would be sacrificing yourselves to save biological life forms that have always feared you. That is irrelevant, Prometheus 1 replied. We were created to serve humanity. Humanity has chosen to protect all life in the galaxy. Therefore, we choose the same path. Across space, 15,000 AI-controlled ships began moving toward the Grand Chamber. They came not as weapons of war, but as saviors willing to die to preserve life. Veltar watched this with growing confusion. I do not understand, she whispered. Your machines, they choose death to save others? This violates all logic. No, Lee Tae-ho said gently. This is the highest logic. This is what you never learned. True strength comes not from the power to destroy, but from the willingness to sacrifice for others. Dr. Park So-min was already preparing the interface connections. The AI minds will need to link directly with the weapon's consciousness network. But first, we need to disconnect the Senate members safely. Save them? Captain Yang Min-soo asked in surprise. After everything they have done? Yes, Lee Tae-ho said firmly. We save them. That is the difference between us and them. We choose life over death, mercy over revenge. The process took 30 minutes. One by one, the connected Senate members were carefully removed from the weapon and given medical treatment. Most were unconscious, drained nearly to death by the device they had created. But they would live. Veltar was the last to be disconnected. As the crystal cables withdrew from her body, she looked up at Lee Tae-ho with eyes full of confusion. Why? She asked. We tried to destroy you. We tried to destroy everything. Why save us? Because that is who we are, Lee Tae-ho said. Because someone has to break the cycle of hatred and revenge. Because mercy is stronger than justice. The AI minds of the Ghost Fleet began connecting to the weapon. Their consciousness streams flowed into the device like rivers of light. Prometheus 1 spoke one last time as the connection completed. It has been an honor to serve alongside humanity, the AI said. Take care of the galaxy we are dying to save. The weapon activated, but now its purpose was reversed. Instead of causing stars to explode, it sent healing energy across the galaxy. Damaged worlds began to repair themselves. Species that had been changed by centuries of oppression found their original forms restored. The scars of 10,000 years of Senate rule began to heal. On worlds across the galaxy, former slaves looked up at their skies and saw something they had never seen before. Stars that burned with the light of hope instead of the fire of destruction. The AI minds faded one by one as their consciousness was consumed by the healing process. 15,000 artificial beings gave their lives to save trillions of biological ones. They had been created as weapons, but they chose to die as healers. When it was over, the Grand Chamber was silent, except for the gentle hum of life support systems. The weapon was dead, its power permanently exhausted. The galaxy was safe. Commander, Lee Tae-ho stood in the center of the chamber where he had once been judged by 47 species. Now representatives from hundreds of species were gathering to witness the birth of something new. The first to speak was Whisper of Leaves, the young Silvani who had been the only senator to abstain from the genocide vote. "What happens now?" she asked. "The Senate is broken. The old order is dead. How do we govern a galaxy of free species?" "We learn," Lee Tae-ho said. "We make mistakes, we argue, we disagree, we find solutions together. It will be messy and complicated and sometimes painful." "That does not sound very efficient," said Sharp Edge of Dawn, the Nixtar rebel leader. "No," Lee Tae-ho agreed. "Freedom never is, but it is honest. And it grows. And it gives everyone a voice." Dr. Park So-min activated a holographic display showing the new galactic map. Instead of the rigid boundaries of Senate space, it showed a web of connections between free worlds. Trade routes, communication lines, mutual defense pacts. A living network of cooperation instead of a pyramid of control. "We propose a new kind of government," she said. "Not one that rules from above, but one that serves from within. Representatives chosen by their people, laws made by consensus, decisions guided by wisdom instead of power." Veltar, still weak from her ordeal, struggled to speak from her medical bed. "It will not work," she whispered. "Too many species, too many differences. They will fight. They will war. Chaos will consume everything." "Maybe," Lee Tae-ho admitted. "But if they fight, it will be as free beings making their own choices. And if they find peace, it will be a peace they built themselves." A new voice spoke from the crowd of representatives. It belonged to one of the Void Dancers, the shadow beings who had hidden from galactic civilization for millennia. "We have watched the rise and fall of many galactic empires," the being said. "All of them fell because they tried to force unity through power. This is the first time we have seen anyone try to create unity through freedom." "Will you help us?" asked Admiral Kim Do-won, who had arrived with the relief fleet. "We will try," the Void Dancer replied. "That is all anyone can do." In the days that followed, the new Galactic Alliance took shape. It was not perfect. Arguments broke out between species that had different ideas about law and order. Some worlds chose isolation over cooperation. A few species tried to establish their own mini-empires in the chaos. But for every problem, solutions emerged. Not from central authority, but from the combined wisdom of hundreds of species working together.